Claps, sync, that, clap. Ready? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Two Coaches. Now, this episode is a very special episode because we actually are going to be responding to one of our listeners' questions on this one. And the big question is, which workout burns the most calories? Let's jump right into
Two coaches.
Two Coaches. Yes. I realized at the very end of all of our intros, we swap. We always swap roles at the very end. Like sometimes you're doing that cha-cha and sometimes I'm doing the ah. And we never talk about it. It just kind of happens. So first up, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Fantastic.
I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you in person, but it's literally been 2 days.
Yeah, it's because we had our collabs a couple weeks in a row, and then we didn't get to record one.
Holy shit, we have been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on. If you haven't checked those out, by the way, all you beautiful people out there, we did a collab with Coffee Connect with Vanessa. Awesome time. We talked about a couple different things. And then we also went and did a collab with Performance Republic. So if you have ever, which is a physical therapy. So go check those out. It was really, really fun. Awesome people to talk with. And yeah, it was a good conversation.
They were wonderful.
They were so wonderful.
It was good because it was reminding me of the first episode. I got super nervous.
Which is weird, right?
It's different.
Yeah.
It's like, change.
There's another person in the room.
And then Aaron was he like, nice to meet you. I was like, my hands are sweaty. I just like shook his head and was like, hey, my hands are real sweaty, man.
You always have a weird like mix of being nervous and not at all nervous with somebody.
Yeah, like if I was really nervous, you wouldn't tell somebody.
Yeah,
I was just like,
exactly.
Hey, man, full disclaimer.
Yeah.
This is a wet handshake.
Get ready for a soggy greeting.
But it's because you made me nervous. It was good.
Yeah, it was a good thing. All right, man. So today we're gonna be talking about which workout.
Question.
Yeah. It was really cool. We if you guys have any questions that you'd like answered or talked about at length, just shoot that in the comments either on the YouTube or the Facebook or wherever. Let us know if you have any questions and we can talk about them on the show.
It's good because like we bounce around ideas, but it's two coaches thinking about what other people want to hear and talk about and what's interesting. But there's some things, man, like just in the past few weeks that people are like, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, you know what? I haven't thought about that in a long time or at all.
Yeah, and we could do an entire week like that. That deserves its own episode.
Yeah.
And this was one of those questions. And the big question was, which workout was going to burn me the most calories?
Yeah.
And the person who was asking, they were asking from the framework of like, which type of workout's really going to be worth my while? Which one's going to be going to burn the most calories? And so we started talking a little bit, and we started kind of diving into it a little bit more. And it dawned on me that a lot of people have this idea, this notion, because of whatever training regimen you go through. Orange Theory, there's a lot of one cycle class where you wear the heart rate monitor and you measure the calories estimated burned. A lot of people have this idea that a high caloric burn in the 45 minutes to an hour that you're working out equals a good workout. And if you get below a certain threshold of calories burned in that time frame, that it wasn't a good workout. You weren't pushing hard enough and all that stuff. And so we wanted to talk about that because there's already a lot of assumptions being made just in the question. So yeah, it's really, really, really super interesting. You want to?
What's your what used to be? I mean, now it's different because we've it's interesting too, like studying online and doing certs and specialties and like trying to do continued educations here and there. Like most of it, you're like yeah. And you have to do your some of it's memorization.
Yeah, take the quiz.
But then there's some that I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I never think about that. And you sometimes you do it inadvertently in your training because it's important, but you don't really focus on like how important it is.
Yeah.
And then talking to some people getting into it, they start talking and you start bringing up like the phases of training and they're like, so be here Tuesday.
Yeah. Push-up? You want me to do push-ups right now?
Push-ups?
Okay, got it.
Got it. I'm like, all right. So what would be, now like I said, it's different, but what would be your go-to when you're talking about back in the day when you first started training? what would be your go-to to get the most burn out of your workout?
Oh yeah. So in terms of what I would tell people is like, oh yeah, well in this particular class, if you take one of my classes, you're going to be burning anywhere from 600 to 1,000 calories in the hour. And that was actually a hook that I would use. In order to make that happen, we would keep people not completely gassed out for the entire time.
Yeah.
You tend to burn more calories when you are working at about like an 80%, 70% level, because you're burning oxygen the entire time.
Yeah.
Right. And that means that you can do consistent work for that entire hour. And so when you look down at your when you're at your fancy smancy watch, it'll tell you that you've had an overall greater caloric burn for that time that you're working.
Yeah.
And so that's what we tell people all the time.
You're in that like VO2 threshold.
Yes.
I think I would always, so personally, growing up in like the martial arts, so like we did cardio, but it was never, like at no point can I remember, except when I got real heavy, like when I was heavier, that did I ever wake up and think like, damn, I don't want to run, or like, oh, I can't believe I have to. Most of the time, for most of my life, even since I was younger, just cardio in general.
Yeah.
Running not just being it, but like jumping rope, any cardio. Freaking burpees. Like I've always just been like, yeah, like this is, I'm good there. I'm okay there. Even,
Jesus Christ.
Even heavier.
What a great gift.
But that, and it's in the brain, because like I'll still think it sucks, but then I'm like, I kind of like this. I was telling Patrick the other day, or a while back, I was like, trying to slow down and bring it down and be more balanced in my own regiment.
Right.
The other day I took off on a bike ride and it was late and I was just like hauling. I was like trying to beat the sun down, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had told myself it was one of those days where I was like, I need to pull back a little bit, and I just ripped it. And then I was coasting through the trees. Right, there was like maybe 2 other people out there that late, sweaty, and I was thinking in my head, it just popped in. I was like, I mean, sometimes you just gotta know. Sometimes you just gotta admit that you like the shittiness of a hard workout sometimes, and that's okay. But I think back in the day, growing up in that life, like I always did cardio, but I would spend an hour or so using the machines and like pumping weights and like Arnold Schwarzenegger in myself as best I could. And I already had knee issues and shoulder problems then too, but I would kind of muscle through those. Like I didn't need that much repetition, but in my mind I was like, this is what's going to help me burn and build the most.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so everybody's a little bit different. Like when you look at calories burned, that was what I would tell people, because it was it was like a selling point. Everyone was interested in how many calories they're going to burn. That means I'm really going to work and I'm really going to lose a bunch of fat or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that it's going to be different for every single person. A dude who is let's say 200 pounds, but is 15% body fat, is going to burn overall a lot more calories than somebody who is 150 pounds and maybe has a little bit more body fat percentage on them, just because muscle eats up a lot of energy. Yeah. So there's no way, especially in a group environment, that you're going to be able to tell, you're going to burn this many calories. You're going to burn this many calories. And even the watches, even a lot of the stuff that's out there right now, the heart rate monitors and everything, the calories burned is the least accurate metric that they put out. They can measure the heart rate pretty well. They can measure distance really well. And it's good information to have. But when it comes to calories burned, it goes through all these different equations and functions. Yeah. And by the end of it, I mean, it really is a shot in the dark. You could be pretty close. You could be pretty spot on with what your phone thinks you've burned, or you could be off by hundreds of calories. It's really, really crazy. And it just depends. And also, you can't just focus on what you've burned in the workout itself.
All day long.
Yeah.
I do. So like it's like I had the oldest one given to me as a gift. It was like a Gear, Samsung Gear or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
And I think ever since they first started coming out, because I used a Fitbit when those first popped on the scene.
Yeah.
And then somebody gave me that Gear, and I used it forever. And some of the functions didn't work. Sometimes it would just turn off for a few days. I would like I would put it on the charger, and it would be like 100%, and the screen would turn on. Take it off, turn it on. It would say rebooting, and it would never come on. And then just one day, I would pull it out of the drawer, and it would be like, "Good morning." I'm like, "Screw you."
So what we're saying is that they're super reliable.
Over time, I realized I use it more, and some people use them like religiously. Like I know a lot of Pete and Jen's peeps. Like they all have the same system. They all use the same setup, and it's all in sync, right?
Right.
And that's awesome because it's good for tracking your overall progress. It's like what I tell people. People are always hopping on and off the scale. I'm like, It's just a metric. And I know that's hard to get into our heads because for most of us, in the last 2 generations, it's just like, well, what's the scale say? And like, well, let me see what it is today. I checked it last night, but let me go ahead and check this morning.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just another metric, but I think I really use mine for like a pedometer,
Uh-huh.
tell the time, stopwatch, and then to like turn up and down the music when I'm not near my phone. Like that's like I'm like for me that's like Star Trek level stuff already.
So what you're saying is you have these things that you use it for, and then literally everything else that it does do, you just
I use it, but it's not something that I'm actively like. That's not why I bought it.
Right.
Bianca got this as a gift because that other one kept messing up, and I was like, thanks. And I realized like I use it, but I don't usually. I forget to set the workouts.
She totes likes you.
She likes me a lot.
Yeah.
I forget to set the workouts and stuff. I do like the checking my heart rate on here, and I do like it keeping track of my average of calories burned a day.
Yeah, and to your point, like when you have an individual who is tracking their overall calories burned in a workout, that can be really, really useful depending on what you're training for. If you're training for something like a triathlon, then that could be a good metric that you want to follow. But you're going to be comparing your metrics to your previous metrics. You're not going to be comparing them to somebody else's, being like, well, this person burned this many, so clearly I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
The second you start crossing that because it reads so inaccurately and it reads so different between individual to individual, the second you start cross-comparing like that, you've missed the point. You missed the boat.
Yeah.
It's just not accurate enough to do that kind of thing. But yeah, to your point, if you're using it over long term, measuring yourself and comparing it against your previous results, hell yeah, you can do that all day long.
I think breaking my mindset too on, and I know there's a lot of people that might relate to this, but like the feeling of being in the gym, working out, or at the park or wherever it is you're getting after it and trying to work out, you're like there's a level of like mental, physical capacity that people, if you've hit it before, it's not that you can't do less. It's just that you know what it feels like when you, now all of a sudden in your mind, you've like formulated as like, this is underachieving.
Right.
And this is a good workout. And that's such a hard concept to break. So even if you give somebody the science and we break down the zones of like what actually happens in this heart rate and this heart rate, this amount of time, the benefits of it, it doesn't matter because like it took me as a trainer still till the last couple of years to be like, slow down.
Yeah.
I didn't 180. Like I haven't started doing all the meditations and yogas and everything that I could possibly do to balance myself out.
Right.
But I have slowed down so much comparatively, and I've had better results overall, like or like generally across the board, right?
Amazing.
We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
Like physically, no, I've lost way more weight before, and I've gotten
in a shorter amount of
tighter
time.
in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's not lasting. This feels good. It's progressive. It's continuous. And it's just the same stuff that I've always tried to convince other people to do. And some of the people that I used to work with at the ranch, like I see them online and I'm like, hell yeah, like they're doing it. They're doing and it's their own variation, their own version of it.
Right.
They've just kind of like cultivated some of those ideas that we kind of worked on together, and now they're off on doing their own thing, you know? And it's interesting, like as a trainer, you could still give someone scientifically what burns the most calories.
Right.
Or maybe you take their individual makeup and you're like, this is what's going to be best for you as an individual to burn the most calories. And you still will be like, all right, I'm going to go kill it. And you rip into a workout, you're dead on the floor, and you're like, okay, that was good. But you could have had a better workout if you just changed the...
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's do that. Let's get into the science a little bit of it. So when you're looking at calories burned in a given workout, there's a lot of different ways to kind of slice it up, but let's focus on just two. Right, we're just going to focus on two. You have something called sustained activity, aerobic, right? And then you have something where you're going to work in bursts, right? This is, by the way, all this is going to be a gross oversimplification, but it's really all you need to know when you're trying to decide how to do the workouts. Sure. Now, as a general rule of thumb, everyone's a little bit different, but as a general rule of thumb, what you can say is that if you're working continuously, if you hop on a bike, for example, and you go for an hour-long bike ride, you can say that continually for that 60 minutes while you're burning oxygen for fuel. This is a gross oversimplification. But while you're in that aerobic zone and you're just continually going, you can still talk during the workout, which is a good way to kind of tell without a monitor where your heart rate's at. But let's say you're working for that 60 minutes, you can still talk. You're gonna burn a huge amount of calories for that 60 minutes. Versus the other side of the aisle, which is where you're working in burst. Well, a lot of people call this HIIT training, high intensity interval, where you're given big bursts of energy, pushing really, really hard, and then backing off for a set amount of time, and then you burst again, back off again, burst again, back off again. You are going to burn, on average, more calories for the sustained activity than you would for the bursted activity for the hour. So if you are looking, if you're like, man, I really just want to burn hot during the workouts, you stay in that orange zone, the weight and maintenance zone, as that it used to be called the fat burning zone, but now it's called the weight management zone, because when Michael was looking it up, he was like, holy crap, they changed the name on all the charts. Look.
But it's just like
crazy.
And it's in parentheses. It's like fat loss in parentheses.
Weight management.
Weight management, weight control. I was like, that's fat burning is what most of them said. I mean,
that's
it's always kind of said weight control too.
I feel like I'm getting old now. I'm like, back in my day, this used to be called the fat burning zone, and now everything's so sensitive. But it's the weight management zone. If you stay in that zone for a good long while, you're going to burn up more calories overall. However, there's a little caveat to this, because while, yes, you might burn more calories in a 60-minute window with that sustained activity, if you go and do the interval training, then while you'll burn a little bit less than you would have with the sustained activity in the 60 minutes, afterwards, your body will continue to burn hotter throughout the rest of the day, something that's called the afterburn effect. And I mean, you can burn up to, I forget the metric, it's like 20%, like up to 20% more calories.
What's it called?
Throughout the afterburn. It's I forgot it. It's called the EPOC, the energy, the extra, I forget the name, but it's called EPOC. It's the number of calories that you burn after the workout as you go throughout the rest of your day. Now, if you factor that in, if you factor in the EPOC, the afterburn effect, that you get from HIIT training, then you end up burning more calories on average with the HIIT training throughout the rest of the day than you did during the whole day with your 60-minute window of sustained activity. So kind of take your pick. A lot of people leave the gym, they look at their watch, and they're like, hey, 600 calories, 700 calories, and they write it off throughout the day. But our bodies don't just work in these little hour increments. They work in 24-hour windows.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to burn the most, keep those two things in mind.
It's all individual, too. It's very relative to, like, if you've got somebody in front of you that, their desired approach is that anaerobic threshold, that burst of energy, but ailments or injuries, whatever the case may be, same thing, that prevents them from really burning in whatever their, preferred method might be. Sometimes you have to pull back and approach it differently. Like I've had to legitimately restructure some of my workout times and like kind of calendar in, like, all right, this is that long one that I'm supposed to do to help benefit my overall, whether it be performance or strength building or fat burning or whatever the thing that I'm trying to work on. Sometimes you have to step back. There's not a one size fits all. And then being able to be flexible in your own training will allow you. Like I had somebody, I remember the first time I put one of my clients, and we lifted all the time. Like we lifted.
Yeah.
He was so strong. And then I was like, all right, we're going to do something different today. He was like, what are we doing? I was like, we're going to hit the bag. And he was just like, hell yeah. So we went over and hit the bag. What else are we going to do? I said, we're going to do some push-ups and some abs. It's the whole workout. He was like, all right, cool. Dead, like within 20 minutes, dead. And I told him several times, like, pull back, don't hit so hard, breathe, slow down. But it was just like, and I did it on purpose. Like I just wanted, because we had talked about improving performance overall.
Right.
And I started talking about stretching and this and that. And they were like, shut up with all that. Like, and I get it. I understand. Like I'm guilty as charged. Like my hips are tight.
That's all the boring stuff.
Well, here you go. Stretch it out. Yeah. And I'm like, I will.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we hit the bag, man. And then just ripped into a new zone, and he was done within like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't see how anyone could do that for an hour. I was like, please, man. Like people, some of these dudes, some of these ladies and guys that are doing like martial arts, like they train for like 3 hours at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
And
They have
it's
some
all
of the
in
best
phases.
conditioning.
Yeah, it's all in phases. You know,
Yeah.
they'll do their bursts, and then they'll go into a strength cycle, and then they'll start doing some of their long endurance training.
So why do they do that? Why do they work in phases like that?
Well, when I was doing martial arts, right, I had two different coaches. One fought in, a gi, was in all kinds of competitions, and then the other guy was no gi. Went through school, got his belt, did his time, but he trained no gi, no belts.
A gi
just
is that white thing that you see in karate movies, by the way, if you didn't know.
The really cool outfit.
Yeah.
And
Jiu-jitsu.
two completely different styles of training, right? Both the same methods. Like we warmed up, we hit the bag, we threw our techniques, we did the techniques, then we did this like circuit, and then we sparred, and then
Yeah.
like it was just like this big long thing. And whether you went to an hour class or you had time to train, you could stay for multiples.
Gross.
Yeah, and the idea was just like we need to get your endurance and your like capacity so high
Yeah.
that there is no doubt that you can, whatever happens in that fight, that you can survive the entirety of the time and then some.
Yeah.
And then still sometimes it falls apart. People go through all these trainings and then they get in the ring or the octagon or the whatever,
Yeah.
and they're just like gassed out because they were just too amped.
Yeah.
too
They
much
get
into
that adrenaline going.
But we did.
Couple shots of bang right before they go in.
You know what I do? I will admit, like between powerlifting and in high school and going into college doing some and continuing doing martial arts throughout that whole time,
Yeah.
completely. Well, there was some similarities and some cross references, but so much like you need to stop lifting so much. I'm
Right.
like, hey, you need to stop doing all that shit. You're gonna hurt your knees more. And I'm like, I'm so confused.
Well, when you're training for function, right? When you're training for performance in either a specific sport or in a specific activity like fighting, you have to come into it with a well-rounded approach. And that was really when we were talking to the person about like which workout is going to burn me the most calories. Physiologically, you can say that, yeah, if you do HIIT over the course of your waking period, right, your 24-hour period, your 12-hour period that you're awake, you'll burn more calories overall. And if you do more aerobic conditioning and you just stay in that sustained zone for the 60 minutes, you will burn more in the hour, right? You can tell them that. But really, when we got into it, what it boils down to is you need both. You really should be doing both, especially if you're training for to be an all-around good athlete, and you're training for function, right?
Yeah. And that's what you are, by the way, people listening. You are an athlete. That I was trying. It wasn't an argument, but I was aggressive. It was a loud conversation because I was like, nah, it doesn't matter that. Like, I mean, I know that the back of my shirt says coach and all, and that's what it would be technically if you were like in a team sport. But like, this is just as important.
Sure.
Maybe that moment has passed. Maybe we don't meet up all the time and do our competitions and stuff together.
Sure.
But like if you're coming in here genuinely because you like it, if you're hitting the gym just because it makes you feel good, like and you're not doing any other external team sports, so you're not like in a volleyball league or like, playing golf every week or like whatever, like some kind of almost religious type practice, like this is your thing. So even though you don't like doing burpees, like you still want to be able to do them correctly overall. And it might be because of your immobilities or the fact that as soon as you start doing them, your heart rate spikes through your throat, that you don't like them.
Right.
And then once you get good at them, once you get better at them, once you improve upon them, that's just another one of those metrics that's showing you like, all right, if I'm going to burn the most calories today out of this workout that I'm doing on this random Wednesday, here we are, like I have to do the burpees this way. Right. Otherwise, I'm just going to be pissed off and I'm going to always think like that's not my jam.
Yeah. That's also why it's a good idea.
Y'all are athletes. So you have to be moldable and flexible.
Yeah. You got to be able to. I always go to pushing a car analogy. Yeah. Like if you're going to push a car up a hill, you got to be strong enough to get the car moving. So it's going to take a certain amount. It's going to take X amount of starting force, right? You got to be able to get in there and be like, yeah, and start that car moving. But that once you get the car moving, that's not it. You still got to be able to push it 2 miles to the mechanic so that they can change out your alternator that blew out on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and other people are like, why didn't you just call AAA? I'm like, shut up.
Now that's when you call your friends
What
and they strap your car to the back of another friend's truck and the damn thing pops on the last hill
like-
that's going into the mechanic.
Oh, I'm sorry. You must have thought you were talking to another adult. Shut up. Cars break.
Cars break and we push them. That's what we do here. I am an athlete. Yeah, I call them athletes too.
I got this. Healthy balance, you know?
Yeah. So when you're attacking this thing, it's sure focusing on how many calories you burned. It's an important thing. It's a good thing to know. But just know that just because you didn't in a 60-minute window burn the max calories in the class or as much as you would have burned if you had just hopped on the bike for 60 minutes. That doesn't mean that you had a bad workout. It simply means that you attacked and focused on a different area of your fitness for that amount of time. And it might be because of the way the body is that because you focused on some sort of interval training for this day, that the other area of your fitness, your sustained activity, your overall endurance is also going to click up because it turns out the body overlaps. If you focus on intervals and you work in that anaerobic zone, which is where you're burning sugar instead of oxygen, if you work in that anaerobic zone, all your other levels below that, which everything is below that, tend to click up a notch as well. Yeah. So don't allow yourself to get so tunnel vision that you're only focusing on one thing at a time. Have a good program is going to incorporate all these different types of training, and they're all going to complement each other. And if you have a good coach, if you have a good programmer, or you yourself are putting together a program, make sure that everything stacks on each other, complements each other, and that way when you come out the other end of a mesocycle, for 4 to 6 week time frame, that you are a better all around athlete because of it.
Yep. I was just thinking and you got there anyway. Like if you're built, it doesn't matter if you have a coach or not. If you're building your own program and you're not getting results, you might need to change something. And I know it sounds like, like pretentious. Like that's
It's like, oh, no
yeah, like,
shit.
oh yeah, obvious. No, but I
all the
have been
time.
there. I have been there doing the exact same thing. Like this is what the heck I know I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
I've been doing this for years. It might be time to change that. That might not be as beneficial as you think. And if you don't want to dig in and study some stuff and get some research done, that's okay. That's all right. But admit to yourself that's what you're doing so that you can get the benefit out of whether it's an hour. I was too far away from the mic there for a little bit.
Now you're good.
Yeah. But like whether it's an hour or 30 minutes, like I get it. Schedule, kids, life, everything plays a huge role. But if you're taking it seriously, even the slightest bit, then it would make sense just to kind of capitalize on it just a teeny bit more to make sure that you are benefiting from it. So that means if Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you only have 45 minutes, then you might have to adjust that workout. You might have to do some stuff you don't like to do if you want to get this specific goal accomplished. Yeah. And if, and if Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you have 2-3 hours that you can just kill, then use it. Use it. Don't be like, well, I got my workout in. Use it. It's an opportunity there. It's hard to do that, man. There's days when I'm like, you know what? I got I already intended to do an hour plus of slow, steady stuff. I ripped a 30-minute unexpected workout with somebody, or I came in the gym and there was, maybe one person came in early. I'm like, yeah, let me do this with you real quick. And then I'm like, my brain starts going like, we talked about that the other day too, like intentions. Yeah. Waking up and being like, this is what I'm going to do. If you're trying to figure out how to burn the most calories, but you don't have any real intentions when you start it, right, you're just going to be flopping around all the time. You might have a couple of solid days where you kill it, but you're not going to remember what you're doing. You're not going to learn anything. You're just going to have had a good workout, and your watch is going to say you did a lot. Yeah, it's how people win these battles but lose the overall war. Yeah, it happens all the damn time. And like what you're talking about is so perfect. Because when you're trying to achieve a goal and you have this overarching goal that you're after, if all you're doing is the same thing you've always done and it's not getting you where you want to go, then you have to freaking change it. I know that sounds super simple, but we see it all the damn time. Yeah. We see it all the time where people just keep on repeating, they keep on trying, and they're just thinking that it's going to work. One of the mentalities that we always combat against in here is the idea that you need to be crawling to the car, sore for a week,
or just feeling miserable, or you
Yeah.
didn't get a good workout.
Yeah.
Same thing with the calories burned. If I didn't burn X amount of calories, then I didn't get a good workout. And it's like, no, that's not always necessarily the case. Should you be able to play around in the upper end of your range where you're really pushing your body to the limit? Absolutely. It's good to know how to do that every once in a while. But especially if you're not getting results from working out like that, then you need to change it, and you need to get away from that mentality of being, like, oh, I gotta crush every single day. I'm not seeing results, but if I just keep doing it, then I'll get there eventually. It's like, no, don't focus on what you think is going to be a good workout. Focus on what is getting you towards your ultimate goal. It's a mentality that we've had to change quite a bit around
the
here.
workout you need, not the workout you want.
Yes. And, oh man, sometimes it sucks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta slow down, get on that bike, and go for an hour, go for 2 hours through some trails. Sometimes that's what your body needs in order to adapt to something new.
Shoot, if you one of my favorites is, and it's not about stacking weight and going for a rook and like killing it for hours and hours, but for real, like if you're okay with outside, and you know some trails or something, or if you don't, find some people who do, throw on a backpack, a couple of like little oranges or some snacks in there, water, whatever the hell else you want to take with you if you need some extra weight in there, and just walk like for freaking hours if you have on a weekend, instead of laying it around.
Yeah.
Like, just go do it. I promise you might be a little sore. You'll sweat a bunch.
Yep.
And
Especially right now in
you'll
Texas.
burn so many calories too. Like, I remember the first time I took my first group of ranch people to the Hill Country State Natural Area.
Yeah.
And our ranch butted up right back. And I was like, I drove us in. Coach, we could have walked over here. It was like, and I was like, I know. And what I did back then, my knees were still pretty solid. So I straight up just ran. It's a mile-long driveway up the ranch. So I ran the mile up, ran into the state natural area. It's about almost a mile to the center, to the central office area. Went in there, got a map, looked at the map, figured everything out, found out where the external loops were so that I didn't get lost. I was like, all right. And then I just ran. For over the course of like 2 or 3 weeks, I would just go in there and run, man, all the trails. And I got, within about a month, I felt comfortable enough to take people and not be like, oh, let's go left, everyone. So like I took all these people, man. I remember that first day they were like, Coach, we could have ran. So I drove them to the central office area.
All right.
And we just walked. And I was like, all right, this left takes us right back to the van. Anybody else that feels like they can do a little bit more, we're going to go straight. And it just goes up and back down, and then you take the same left. And then it was just like this little path. We did that for a couple days,
Yeah.
We did it once in the first week, twice in the second week. And then I had some people who would do that like 3 times a week. Just sneakily, right? They'd be like, hey, Coach, I'm going to go me and so-and-so are going to drive over to the park. I'm like, yeah, do your thing. And they would go do their hike.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like,
That's awesome.
but stuff like that, like, it's so simple, man. And not everybody that came to the ranch, like, it was all mental stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it wasn't just like, let's lose a bunch of weight. Like, maybe that's what we showed up with like the intentions of getting fit and stuff. But like those hours out there burning those calories, you ripping into it and not really knowing, you're not doing burpees and snatches. So it doesn't feel like that same workout.
Right.
But you're burning all those calories. You got the hell out of your normal. And it might put some perspective into a lot of different. I really like doing that. I didn't mean to harp on that.
No, it's important.
Well,
man.
I was thinking about it because I've gone on hikes by myself. Just been like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the park. And that's my workout for the day.
Yeah, just to be able to go out there and keep moving and get active. This is also where a lot of people would benefit from starting. Maybe you've walked around the block a couple of times and you've built up some endurance a little bit. Maybe it's time to graduate to a hike and continue your walking on some different types of terrain, some different elevation. And maybe if you are like a hardcore weightlifter and all you do is this one type of training, going out for a hike is a really low risk way to change up your routine a little bit. There's so many ways to be active.
Yeah, man.
There's so many ways to attack this and skin this cat. Getting out on a hike is a freaking awesome option.
I have some shredded up, big old bodybuilder friends, men and women, who are like, part of their routine is like they have to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Like that's their cardio. They don't do the stairs. And that's like a typical one too. You see like a lot of
Yep.
bodybuilders hitting the stairs, maybe the stationary bike.
Yeah.
And then some of the cross athletes there that are like, you know, they've done this and they've done that, so they know how to row or they can swim.
Right.
And
And
I have a bunch of bodybuilder friends that are just like every day they have to do an hour of freaking walking in the hills.
just walking.
Hills of their neighborhood.
Yeah.
They're just out there killing it. People were like, "Oh, if I walk, that's the trick. I just need to walk."
They're like, bring, 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 bring. Yes. How wide do you cut your trees? I'm going to be walking on your mountain later.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So for all of you at home following along, when you're choosing which workout to do, as far in terms of your calories, the biggest or the two main versions of it are sustained activity for a certain amount of time versus a shorter amount of time with a bunch of peak exertion points, right? Where you in intervals you just go really, really hard and then back off, really, really hard and then back off. Those are the two that we see the most. They both have really, really crazy benefits. We recommend doing both of them, incorporating both of them into your strategy, depending on what your goals are. The mix might be a little bit different. Typically, the sustained activity is going to burn more in that session versus the HIIT, which will burn a little bit less. But the HIIT does have the benefit of the afterburn, which is also the EPOC is excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. I
EPOC.
just remembered it right now
EPOC.
when I didn't Google it.
EPOC. What's Google?
Yeah.
What's Google, Precious?
We just know everything. We just know everything right off the top.
I had that conversation with one of my clients this morning.
Yeah.
He was asking me, we were just talking about life and stuff, and we were stretching and doing a bunch of trigger points, and he was like doing all these mobility things, and we were talking about just like decisions people make and how we end up, you know, we're all just about just life. And he was saying like, and plus, right, and you know, nowadays, he goes, we didn't have a whole library, encyclopedia, dictionary, thesaurus available to us right there on hand.
Just in my pocket.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
We had to go, you and I talked about this, like we had to go and call people and be like, hey, what's that song from that one thing? And they're like, then they call like 5 or 6 people, and then 3 weeks later, they're like, hey, dude, that song, blah, blah, blah. You're like, what? What are you talking about? But for real, and still, even though we have that option available, people don't do it. People don't get on there and research. They get on Facebook and they get on social medias, and they kind of pull from these images and these get me kind of moments. Like you've got to do some research, read one website, read another website. And if you're not going to do any of that and you're trying to get some freaking results and you've been banging your head against the wall, then reach out, get some help from somebody. Yeah. Reach out to Coach Robert, myself, but I don't care. Whatever side of town you're on, it doesn't matter. Find somebody, talk to them, listen to our podcast from last time, figure out if that vibe is there, figure out if there's some energy that actually is going to help you and enrich your life. And then move forward with your goals and stop getting stuck. You know, I was thinking like we go through the phases of our own style of like coaching and training and working out.
Sure.
We try to, and we bounce back and forth. I'm not gonna lie and not admit that there's been times where I'm like, I don't want to do this. What am I doing? Dog Days of Summer every year. I'm like, this is stupid, but I'll probably do it next year, and I'll probably do it the next year.
Never.
And it's this year. This was your first year. No shame. I don't even care. This was the first year that I literally have set like 15,000 meters on a rower.
Oh.
And then like started rowing.
Michael.
Class started. I jumped off, started coaching class. Everyone's got the warm up. Everybody good? Good. There's no new people in the class. I'm going to sit back down and row for the 10 minutes. And then I
turn your knees out.
3.5, 4 hours later, I have almost completed 15,000 meters.
Unreal.
But there's been, we have people here, and I've done it before too. 15, 20,000 meters, 30. Some of them have done the marathon.
Oh, big shout out to Roger, one of our man, that
Cobos.
guy, Roger Cobos did a full on marathon on the rower last week.
And I don't care what anybody says in our friend circle. You know that people didn't think you could do that shit. And you did it, bro. You did it. I'm not even playing around. That I wouldn't do that ever. Unless they were like, I'm going to kill your whole family unless you do this marathon row.
At which point I'd still be like, fine.
Here we go again.
Oh, God. Every time you want me to do cardio.
Elizabeth is like,
every time you want me to do cardio, you got to kidnap the family.
Threaten the whole family.
Jesus.
Great job, Roger. For real.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's one of those things, man. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's gross and it's awesome.
And for those of you who don't know, Roger's a good example of how to mix up your training because Roger is a strong dude. He's got a ton of muscle on him.
His calves are the size of my face.
He's just this big dude. He's got a ton of muscle on him. He works out. He trains heavy.
Don't let this go to your head.
Yeah. Don't get all cocky. But then just out of nowhere, he sat down on a rower for, God, what was it, 3 hours, 4 hours?
4 hours.
3-4 hours.
He took a break. He had some food, some snacks, electrolytes, but
he was watching a show and
just
just rode his morning away, and did a marathon's worth. It was incredible.
if you're not, and that's that stuff is fun, and I'm not gonna pretend like I'm not about to go rip into something right now. I'm not gonna pretend like I won't do it again. But I've done a lot more stretching, a lot more mobility, a lot more spending time figuring things out, a lot more, mowing the lawn on the lines. All of it, just everything.
Yeah.
But
Sharpening the saw.
yeah, but I will admit, and I've realized this, not as a trainer, just as a person, like, if you like exercise and you love the way it feels, even if you do like just crawling out, like if you're not going to use it for a competition aspect, if you're not going to use it to really accomplish these or start pursuing these goals, and maybe it's because you're not ready yet or whatever the case may be honest with yourself. Don't continue freaking hurting yourself by really trying to get after it. Get after it just enough. I'm not telling you to do less. I'm not telling you not to do what you feel like you need to be doing. But don't continue hurting yourself and training in a way that's not fitting to your lifestyle and that's not going to benefit you overall. So burning the most calories is important for sure. I get it. But over the long term, you know what I mean? These short bursts of getting after it and burning these max amount of calories in these short amount of times over you consistently getting a program together and having to switch up your workouts and mobilize and do all the things for no other reason but because this is what you like to do, not because of this competition on Saturday or not because you want abs by August, like this life. And then all of a sudden I guarantee you, if you take the stats on it, you'll have burned way more calories over that long-term goal.
Yes.
In the same amount of time that you would have burning those quick bursts of like, I killed it for this 6 weeks and I killed it for this month. And like,
yeah.
And we're all guilty of that for sure. That's the same thing. It's always biting off more than we can chew. 180 degrees, other direction. I'm going to get after it. Sometimes you just have to hang on long enough to. We were talking about the lazy river last time. Sometimes you just have to hang on long enough before you're actually ready to take a step.
Yeah.
The fact is that you stood up and you're no longer floating with everybody else. Like that's big enough.
Yeah, exactly. Just make sure
Get
that
on the freaking go around the block.
what you're doing needs to be moving you in the right direction towards your goals, and don't be under any false pretenses. Yeah, exactly. Don't be under any false pretenses that what you're doing is going to have a cutoff date or is going to be quick and dirty.
It's not enough.
I'm just going to get in there and make it happen. This is a marathon. It should be a lifelong journey, and every step matters. So make sure that you're taking them really carefully and that you're giving yourself enough time to do them correctly.
Yeah. And don't punk out on yourself either. If you are all about it and you're like, no, hey, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm ready, I'm able. My knees is good, my back is great.
My knees is good.
Let's do this thing. Then yeah, bite off as much as you can, for sure. But don't do too much. That's all we ever do is we bite off too much. We don't do enough. We don't stick to it. We're not regimented. Little bits of discipline, little bits to get to what workout will burn the most calories for you. You know, it might not be what you think it is right now.
Bingo.
Mentally, emotionally, phically.
That's badass. Also build muscle.
Yeah, you got to get strong.
If you build some muscle, you'll burn more calories just in general. You'll burn more calories just being you, which is always good.
My mama was always trying to convince herself to resistance train. Like she was always trying to trick her brain into resistance training. And correct me if I'm wrong, mama, but like I feel like for a long time, many years there, the resistance training aspect. There had to have been some remnants of like me powerlifting back in the day. Me and my brother powerlifting back in the day. Football athletes, muscles, blah 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 blah.
Right.
All cliches, right? Dude, no man. I know some super relatively to what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Freaking strong women that don't look all muscular. You know what I mean? It's just about how you want to do it. But if you do not have that density and that those things built up. You're going to feel it. Yeah. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel the weakness. You're going to feel the imbalance. You're going to feel all of those little things that could be benefited from Very, very simple resistance training.
Yeah. And you're going to burn less calories in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Get more muscle, burn more calories, baby. All right, man. Well, cool. Well, as always, guys, if you have any questions at all, reach out to Coach Michael or myself. Also, please, if you you can't do it on Spotify that I know of. If you can, let me know. But rate and review us. Go on to the different podcasts, iTunes, whatever, and
Comment.
Yeah, give us a comment.
Comment
give us a
on our
rating and
IG.
review. And if you have any ideas for topics in the future, things that you'd like us to talk about and hit on, or questions that you might have, shoot us. Either you can shoot us a comment on social media, or you can also put that in the review.
Yep.
We read them all.
Yep.
Cool.
All righty, right.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, be safe, be good.
This has been Two Coaches.
Thank you for stopping by. We need an outro.
Huh?
We need some sort of like.
No,
No, not like that. Not a song like.
people are like, oh, here we go again.
Like what I've been saying on the virtual workouts is.
Did you see what I've been saying?
No.
You go. What have you been saying?
So I've been saying like, as always, guys, we love you. Give me a big sweaty virtual fist bump. And then I'll say, it's always a little bit different, but it's always something to the effect of, until next time, stay safe, stay clean, do good, be good. We'll see you next time. And then I'll click
I've
it.
been saying, we do the virtual fist bumps. I'm like, hit me with a virtual fist bump. You guys did so great. I'll do my 3 like cool down breathings, and that's how they know it's the end. And then I'm like, as always, if you have any questions, reach out to Coach Rob or myself. Thanks. We want to thank you for joining us here on Transcend Fitness Live. See you in the recordings.
I love it. Well, until next time, guys, do good, be good. We'll see you.
Thanks for joining us on Two Coaches Live.
Awesome.
Damp-a-damp-a-damp.